So how do you test your Dolby Atmos home theater? I know in the past I've taken a movie that I've seen a bunch of times, pop it in my Blu-ray player, fast forward to the scene in question, and I play it and I listen for whatever's happening up top and how it relates to what's happening on screen and what's going on in the ear level speakers. But that's really not the best way to do it because in a movie, well, we all know Dolby Atmos scenes are, few and far between, and they happen so fast. Like the movement of the sounds is so fast, it's very hard to pick up on exactly where that is supposed to be as it relates to what's happening on screen. Like, do we have a visual representation to go along with the audio? And the answer to that is no, unless, of course, you have a Trinov where you have their Atmos viewer. But, who's got $16,000 to $30,000 just sitting around to buy a processor? I know some of you do, which is awesome. Good for you. But majority of people just do not. And that is why we created the torture test section in the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit. The torture test section comprises of 6 Dolby Atmos tracks to go along with the full 160 Dolby Atmos tracks we created for the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit. If you want to get your hands on them, we are shipping, spatialcd.com. Make sure you pick yours up today. So the torture test section in the SACT works a little bit differently. We give you a visual representation of what's happening on screen and where the sound is supposed to be. And we also give you 2 different sounds. We give you a full range pink noise, and we also give you a human voice. In particular, it's my voice. So there you have it. Now I'm going to give you this warning because the torture test section will show you what's good about your Atmos setup, and it will point out glaring weaknesses of your Atmos setup as well. So don't shoot the messenger. Look, we all have obstacles to deal with. I play this upstairs in my living room setup, and I already know it's not going to sound good. And it kind of doesn't because of the way my living room is shaped. However, in the studio here, I know when I play this file, it's going to sound pretty good because this is where, I made these files. But at the same time, it has a better room shape. My speaker boundary is more in line with the Dolby Atmos renderer, so I know it's going to sound good. But there still is room for improvement, and I can hear that whenever an object flies at the top of the room and goes forward or back or left or right or whatever the situation is. I think adding middle heights to my setup here in the studio will actually give me better Atmos experience. So that is definitely one thing that you're going to have to remember when you're playing this. Like if you have obstacles or your room is weirdly shaped or you can't put your height speakers in the right locations, you will notice every little thing bad about your setup with this torture test section. So, you've been warned. So what we're looking at here is the voice horizontal X's. And basically I'm having the sound travel through the room in the shape of an X. Like if you were to look at the top of the room down, you'd see that the sound is moving as an X. And this is the voice one. And you can see just how slow the voice is moving around the room. And that is key. Now we start off at 0% height, which is, ear level. So you can see visual feedback from the Dolby Atmos renderer, and you can see visual feedback in the form of the level meters. Now we're at 50% height. And as you can see, I'm going to pause the video here. You can see in the levels meter, now this is set up for a 9.1.6 Atmos configuration, but look how many speakers have sound coming out of them. That's 12 right there. 12 discrete channels have sound coming out of them. There is no other place that you can find this kind of visual feedback to go with the audio that's traveling around your room. And this is exactly why we created this. All right, here's another one. This one's called the up and over. And look at what's happening. You have the sound going from your front left straight up, and it's going to go from your front left height all the way over to your front height right, and then go straight down into your front right main speaker. And this seems okay. I'm sure you're like, oh, well, no big deal, until we get to situations like this. This will activate your right surround speaker, go straight up. So if you have a middle height, it should go straight to your middle height. But if you don't, it'll activate your front height and rear height. Now we're in the middle of the room up in the top of the ceiling. That's all your height channels activated, and back down to your surround left. So this part is definitely going to trip up some people's home theaters. And I'm going to fast forward to now this part here where it goes from your center channel straight up to the ceiling and then straight all the way back to the back of the room. This one is going to rip up a whole bunch of home theaters as well, including here in the studio. This also didn't sound the greatest. Again, if I were to add middle heights to the setup here in the studio, I think all these tests would perform a bit better. Now let's go to my favorite one here, because this is something that really will test out your home theater, and this is diagonals. I'm using the voice one because this one does move slower than the pink noise. And as you can see on screen, it's basically the sound traveling from one speaker to another, and I label the speakers. So right now we're going from front height right to surround back right, a diagonal in your room. And here's another diagonal, surround back right to rear height left. Now we're going rear height left to front left. And it'll do this for every angle in your room. I'm going to fast forward it so we can check out the real magic, which is toward the end. Here's what I'm talking about. Front height left to surround back right. And it's going to go up and now do rear height right to front left. I'm going to pause the video again. And you can see in the level meters, we again have 12 discrete channels that have audio going through them. The torture test section in the SACT is the only place where you can get this kind of visual feedback that corresponds with audio that's moving around your room. So if you're wondering how well does Atmos handle sounds that are whizzing by your head through the middle of your room and going up and going all over the place in your home theater, the torture test section of the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit is the one and only place where you can actually test this and listen to details that you're just going to miss in every Hollywood movie because the sounds are just traveling too fast for you to pinpoint their location, and there's really just nothing on the screen but action anyway, so you're just going to be confused. This is one of my favorite sections of the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit. I had a pleasure making it because it was really cool to just kind of dream up of the best way to test your Atmos home theater and also make sure it's supposed to be doing what it's doing. So again, this will either tell you A, how good your Atmos system is, or B, show you the glaring weaknesses of your Atmos system. And again, I have glaring weaknesses in my system upstairs. Down here, not so much, but I know I can get it to sound about 25% better if I go with adding middle heights. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, don't forget, owners of the SACT have the Discord community to ask questions that are specific to their system, and somebody in that community will definitely get back to you if Joe and I cannot. That's it for today. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Beep.